This week, we had our talented sister, Sister Mecca Muhammad, also known by her stage name as Hecava Mecca. As busy as she is being a mother, an artist, wife, and many other shoes that she fills, our sister made time to give us a bit of her mind. Praise be to Allah, and we thank her for that. She answers questions relating to the role of a woman, her assignment given from Allah God, what does it look like to maintain peace, what is self-care, and many other topics that we covered in this episode. We would like for you all to give us your input on what we discussed, and inshallah, God willing, you all will enjoy this episode of Black Tea. Peace. Assalamu alaikum, everyone, and welcome to our episode of Black Tea. Today we have our beautiful, talented sister, Sister Mecca, also known as Hecava Mecca, who is a female rapper, singer, and songwriter. The 26-year-old is a conscious artist from Akron, Ohio, praise be to Allah, and her goal is to help in the resurrection of her people with the teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. Praise be to Allah. So today we are going to go ahead and jump into our first question. First, did you have anything that you wanted to add about yourself, beloved? Or would you like to go ahead?
No, I'm good.
Okay, yes, ma'am. So we're going to go ahead and ask about, go into our first segment, which is called Naturally Beautiful. And we are going to discuss, well, first I wanted to ask you about femininity, because this book really deals with femininity. So what does femininity mean to you?
The femininity to me, it basically means that I'm in tune with how Allah made me and just living out the nature in which I was created, which is to which is to assist my husband, my nation, with whatever it is that Allah gave me in the way that He gave it to me, and to just be my best self in the way that Allah created me. That's just what it goes back to. It's how Allah created me. That's just it's who the woman is. It's just in her natural state. That's what femininity is. In her natural state, that's femininity.
Yes, ma'am. Praise be to Allah. Sister Destiny, did you want to add anything to that, or you had anything you wanted to say?
I just have questions regarding Naturally Beautiful.
Okay, yes, ma'am. So we did talk about, well, we're in chapter 12 of Naturally Beautiful, and the title of chapter 12 is called it is called Practical Application, the Married Muslim Woman. And our sister is married. Praise be to Allah. So is there anything in chapter 12 of Naturally Beautiful that stood out to you?
Me?
Did you read it? Or it's okay, you don't have to read it, but did you read it?
I wasn't able to.
Yes, ma'am. That's fine. That's fine. Okay, so in that case, some questions from, we'll provide the questions. You don't have to read it. So there was a statement that Sister Ava made in chapter 12, and one of the things she said was, one of the primary reasons Allah God created a female from Himself was to give Him comfort. So based on like what you were already getting to in your answer, what femininity means to you, based on that statement, what, like, how do you process this statement, and how does this allow you to be conscious of your purpose as a wife?
If I am His comfort or His consolation, then that means that I am His peace. That means that I am His diary. That means that I am His journal. That means that I am essential in His self-care, so to speak. And as a wife, in the role that I do play in my home, I am a stay-at-home wife, and my husband is the sole provider for the household. And so for me, that means making sure that my husband's needs are met. Because if he is not taken care of mentally, if there is not peace in the home, which is cleanliness, his children are taken care of. He doesn't have to worry about coming home and cooking or, anything like that. He can come home and he can rest. He can come home and he's not going to worry about me yelling at him or um, talking down to him or disrespecting him or because he plays his role and I play mine. Now, I have read Naturally Beautiful. I read the whole book. I just didn't read it recently. And Naturally Beautiful, I believe it's Naturally Beautiful. Yeah, where it says that we were created to submit, but we also demand respect. So, in being his peace, it does not mean that I am his doormat, though. So, I can be peaceful as long as he is peaceful with me. So, I'm his peace, but he is my peace as well. And by him, he brings me peace by taking care of the household because the Honorable Miss Louis Farrakhan said that it's not in a woman's nature to work outside of the home. She's not built to be able to carry that burden. And I know I'm not. I'm not built to carry that burden whatsoever. So, he brings me peace by me being able to stay home and take care of my children and by him being out in the workforce because that's what he was built for. He has the world on his shoulders like the FOI uniform. So he brings me peace and I bring him peace and we're the duality. Our peace may look different, but we still bring each other peace.
Yes, ma'am. That's beautiful. The way that you worded that, and I gotta snap it up to what you said about if he bring me peace, then I give him peace, because it's true, and that's really important, and sometimes we leave that out. Um, so there was something else that Sister Ava said, and now I can't remember why I wrote this statement. Mm. So I can't remember exactly, but what comes to my mind in this moment, based on one of the primary reasons Allah God created a female for Himself, was to give him comfort. Um, but before Allah made the second self, which is us, the woman, Allah was already whole. He already had purpose in his life. He just was looking for a companion, looking for someone to comfort him. But the statement, Sister Ava didn't is not the first person to say this, but she talks about this. And so the statement, where there are no decent women, there are no decent men, came to my mind. But knowing that Allah was whole first, and I can't remember exactly how Sister Ava wrote it, because I read it yesterday morning, but I still don't remember. But yesterday had me thinking about it made more sense to me, that statement, I should say, because at first I used to take that statement as kind of negative, but in negative in the sense of like, dang, like I'm not decent. But it brought more meaning to the man needing to be whole, because we can become like the man, because knowing that we are the second self of Allah, it means that Allah replicated himself, the female version of himself. But if we around a man who is no good, then we could be replicated to be like that man who was no good. So wondering if you just wanted to speak on that statement at all, or if anything comes to your mind. And if not, that's fine too.
Which one, that where there are no decent women, there are no decent men?
Mm-hmm.
Um, well, what comes to mind for me is I used to think it was basically I remember the minister saying that I want to say he was talking about the church and when you in the church and he was talking about the preacher, he was like, you look down and you see the woman and she half dressed, you can't keep your mind on the word. You know what I'm saying? So a man is naturally a natural man in his natural state is naturally attracted to a natural woman in her natural state. And if we are undecent or indecent, then he's not going to be decent because it's basically like we allow certain things to happen in our indecency. So that's how I used to think about it. But now I think about it in terms as because we are the mother of civilization, because we birthed men into this world and we help to mold and fashion and shape them. We are the ones that imprint the mind of God in them in the womb based upon what we think, what we watch, what we listen to, who we are surrounded by. And if the woman has nothing in her mind to give her child, if she is not decent in the way that she lives life, then more than likely, unless Allah intervenes in that child's life, that child is not going to grow to be a decent man. And so it is our responsibility, first and foremost, as the teachers and the nurturers of our children, to be decent women so that we can produce decent men, because we're not just producing, you know, a man, but we're producing a husband. We're producing a father. We're producing, somebody who is supposed to contribute to society. And so again, if we don't have any decent thoughts within ourselves, then we're not going to be able to produce that man or that woman that will be decent in society. 75% of the work is with the woman, and the 75th chapter of the Holy Quran is the resurrection. A woman is pregnant for 75% of the year, and so it all coincides. 7 plus 5 is 12, which is the number of new rulership. And so it's not negative to say that where there are no decent women, there are no decent men, though when you first listen to it, can be like, well, dang. But when you really get to like get into it and get deep into it, it's really like a compliment, because it's like we are at the forefront and we are the standard of civilization. So, and as you can see in this world is a great example how the woman has been demoralized. She has been devalued. And it you can definitely tell in this world the way that the woman thinks, just because of the way that the world is.
Yes, ma'am. That was beautiful. Thank you for sharing. And then goes back to the duality that you was mentioning. Is one part, most of it is our responsibility, but then there's another side of what can happen when a woman is around a man who has not fully developed himself or not even in the process of striving to. So that was really beautiful. Sister Faith, did you have a question for Naturally Beautiful before I ask my last question for that?
I actually wanted to just read this portion right here. It's on page 94, and I wanted to get your thoughts on that, Sister Mecca. She says, as modern women, and modern women is quoted, we must be especially mindful and watchful for the traps that our own minds will set will set for us because of some negative experience we had with a predatory male, which will prevent us from experiencing the joy of being a woman. Now, how does that apply to what you just said in terms of us having that responsibility of being decent women? And yeah, just I'll leave it at that. How does that relate to what you just said?
Can you read it again?
Absolutely, yes, ma'am. So she says, um, she says, as modern women, we must be especially mindful and watchful for the traps that our own minds will set for us because of some negative experience we had with the predatory male, which will prevent us from experiencing the joy of being a woman.
And can you ask the question again? I'm sorry.
Yes, ma'am. How does those words relate to what you just said previously about our responsibility and our role as women and as mothers and as wives?
Well, as Sister Destiny said, you know, a man leads a woman. And so if that man is a predatorial man, and um, does not respect the woman or value the woman, it can definitely cause issues with the way that she raises children, and the way that she raises children and in the society. And so if she is with a predatorial man, Allah has to intervene, you know what I'm saying? Or she, has to really seek counsel in order to overcome that trauma, because that's trauma to deal with a man like that. Um, because again, it will affect her children and the way that she raises her children if she does not get help.
So would you say that if a man is a predatory male, would we, or would you say that he's like that because of his mother?
I think there is definitely a possibility. Um, the relationship that he may have had with his mother, what he may have seen his mother go through, and him thinking that it's okay for him to be like that as well. That's why it's important for women to be careful if we're not with the man that we have children with, to be careful who we bring into the home with our children, because our children are watching. And especially from the time that a child is born until about 5 years old, they're in pretty much a subconscious state. And so they're just recording everything. And so if their child sees a lot of abuse and sees their mother being disrespected, or even her disrespecting him and causing trauma for him, that's going to have a huge impact on who he is when he grows up. So of course, it's not all on the woman, it's also on the man. The man has a responsibility as well to raise his son. A woman can't necessarily raise, what, sorry, a woman can't necessarily raise a boy, but she still has a huge role in his development. So I would say yes, and also no. There's a chance that it may not be that, because he can also be influenced by peers as he gets older. So I would say yes and no.
Okay, yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we can't put it all on mama. um my next question is about Sister Ava. Part of this chapter is about marriage, as Sister Faith mentions, and she talked about how her and her husband have disagreements. And actually, I'll just read that. It's not long. I just, so to give you a little context to what Sister Ava was saying, instead of just going off of me just asking the question. She said, I, for one, am so happy to be married. I'm so appreciative of God that He gave me a good man. And this is not to say that we do not have strong disagreements. Smile. And I like that she put the smile there, because I think that oftentimes um get automatically like a disagreement as being negative, or like it's an argument, but it doesn't mean that you're in an argument yet.
Right.
It's handled properly. And then she said there's no such thing as living with someone and you do not have disagreements, but that is part of the process of achieving unity. And then I'll read the next statement. She said, that is why marriage is so difficult. It is the process of two gods seeking to become one with each other and one with the law. And that's on page 108. So, my question to you, with you being on that process of being married, what are the benefits of having disagreements with our spouse?
Though it can definitely be challenging, because me and my husband, we're not very we have very different personalities. Aside from me being woman, him being man, we just analyze and think, and just everything is pretty much polar opposites. But I learn a lot from my husband, and it takes a lot of humility to be able to do that, because of course the God Himself wants to always be right, even when you're wrong. You always want to believe that you're right, and that just proves that the mind was made to think right, because you'll try to justify being wrong. You know what I'm saying? You'll try to make it into truth because your mind was made to think right, but you're wrong. You know what I'm saying? So you kind of have to take it with a grain of salt, and um, it definitely takes a lot of humility. But I learned a lot from my husband, and I appreciate the fact that he's so different from me. Um, And we actually really don't argue. I don't think we've ever gotten into an argument. We have a lot of disagreements, but we don't argue, because once you begin to argue, it goes from having a civil conversation. Once you begin to argue, a lot is completely out of the conversation, because now it's based upon ego. It's based upon, well, I'm right, you're wrong. Listen to me. Listen to what I said. You know, it's not based upon necessarily fact. It gets into opinion. And the minister said that there's no reason why two Muslims should argue. Because most of the times in arguments, things begin to get disrespectful. They begin to get heated. While in a disagreement, you still have sometimes the disagreement can get a little bit heated, but you still have your composure, and you're still able to think. Once you begin to yell and all that, you get into a reactive mind, which you're not conscious anymore, and anything goes. So it's actually not safe to argue, because some people don't know how to, some people handle anger differently, and a lot of people, black out. And when they black out, they don't know what's going on, um, because they're not conscious. Um, that's besides the point. But anyway, I disagreements with my husband, I appreciate them, because it causes me to grow in myself and to learn that there are other perspectives and not just mine. Allah's the all seeing. And if he's the all seeing, then that means not one way, not one thought is correct. There's multiple ways to get the number nine, multiple equations, all that to get the number nine. So
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. And I'm happy that you also went into the difference of a disagreement and what happens when you argue. So thank you for that. Sister Faith, anything else about Naturally Beautiful?
no, ma'am.
Okay, so our next segment is Courting a Law God, and wanted to bring in your music, since from watching you on social media, it looks like a big part of you. So correct me if I'm wrong, but you just look like you just said yes. So would you say that your music is an assignment given to you from Allah God?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. So I kind of figured you would say that, but I wanted to make sure first. So how did you realize you have an artistic gift, and when did you accept that this is an assignment for you?
Oh, that's a lot. I mean, now that I think back to it, I knew when I was younger, I just couldn't like vocalize it. Um, about whether it was singing, rapping, or doing instruments, because I used to want to be a professional clarinetist. But music, period, I knew it was just what I'm supposed to do in life, because I can't go a day without it. Like, there was a point in time where I sang more than I talked. And I'm still like this now, but don't interrupt me while I'm singing, because I will snap at you. Period. Like, do not interrupt me while I'm singing. I get so angry. But I really realized it once I became probably like around 19, 20. I realized that this was my mission, that Allah gave to me. But really, on my 25th birthday, um, I was having a lot of doubts. What? I'm sorry, y'all. I was having a lot of doubts, and I remember praying to Allah and asking Allah, what am I supposed to do? It was actually, I was 24. I was about to turn 25. Am I supposed to continue out with this? This is what I'm supposed to do in life? And I have a lot of music artistry. I have a lot of music pictures and stuff. And at this time, my husband had broke one of my pictures that has said, "Music can change the world," and I was so heartbroken. But about 2 weeks later, it was my birthday, and it was my 25th birthday, and my husband bought me the Minister's album. And what resonated with me is because, Al Furqan is the 25th surah, the discrimination. I was turning 25. And when I looked at the back when I pulled everything out, on the bottom of it, there's a picture. and it says, "Let's change the world." So it was like my husband was supposed to break that picture that said music can change the world, and I was supposed to receive this picture that says, "Let's change the world." You know what I'm saying? So it was like I was being told, like, yeah, music can change the world, but now it's time to actually do it. So let's get it done. Um, and that was the year before I made Young God. So it was in 2019 when I realized, for real.
That was beautiful, Sister Mecca, and it's just beautiful how a lot talks to us, but it's more beautiful when we could receive it because sometimes we miss those signs. And you could have just been like, "Oh, okay, this broke. I got this," and just missed all the messages. So praise be to Allah. Um, Sister Faye, please stop me at any point that you want to jump in if you got follow up questions.
Okay, yes, ma'am.
Um, and I didn't even introduce the segment. I just said we're in Allah God. So the purpose of this segment is to reflect on our own relationship, our personal relationship with Allah God, because with courting Allah, like sometimes that can go out of the picture. We can get so focused on who am I going to marry, or when we're in the process of being married, we're just like, okay, my spouse, and you can remove a lot from that equation, but we should always be courting a lot. So that's the whole purpose of this segment, and hence the question. So the next question is, because you openly speak about this, I thought it would be okay to ask you, but if it's not, please, just tell me. So, what has it been like for you to have a black mother and a white father? And then, yeah.
Well, at the beginning, like when I first began to awaken, okay, well, let me go back as a child. As a child, I didn't really pay attention to color because it's not something that was really discussed inside of my household. Like, I just knew my father was light, my mom was dark, my brothers were dark, my sister and I were light. So I didn't really think anything about it until I got older and out into the world or whatever. But once I decided to join the nation, and I began to awaken and stuff like that, I went through a phase just like I'm pretty sure every other black person goes through, where they begin to hate white people. And it took a while for it to actually dawn on me, like, but Mecca, your dad is white. And um it's difficult. I mean, it's not difficult. There was a point where it was really, really difficult. Um, Especially when you're dealing with some people who have gotten the knowledge but don't know how to properly explain or talk about, or are immature in their expression of the knowledge. Um, and so, me personally, or I've talked to other mixed people, it can leave a bad taste in your mouth because you're dealing with people who can't properly express it. So um, it was a point where
For clarity, when you say people who can't properly express it, are you talking about those who are also mixed, or just people in general who are looking from the outside in, just so I can understand and we can understand the context?
people from the outside in, but also people who have the knowledge. So like whether it's somebody nation, 5%er, you know, or somebody who just has the knowledge but doesn't call themselves by Nation of Islam 5%, but just have the knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've been called a half devil, I've been called half dog, I've been called a lot of things, respectful things. But there was a point where I began to think that because I had a white father, that I wouldn't be able to have children. Um, and that because I had wanted to have a child with my husband for a while, but it never happened. And so I began to think I'm not going to be able to have any children because my father is white, because my father is a devil. I'm not going to be able to have children. And of course, Allah made it known that's not true, baby girl. And I have two children now. And now a lot more Mataka. Stop. Now I'm a lot more accepting of the fact, especially dealing with the fact that Master Fard Muhammad's mother is white, and that's something I try to keep at the forefront. But then you also have people who will say, well, that's different because Master Fard Muhammad's father was black and his mother was white, so it's not necessarily the same thing. And, it's a lot. So it's been difficult, but I feel like this is also part of my mission as well, because regardless of whether your mom or your dad is white, you're still black. And as mixed people, we have to be able to accept the truth regardless of the color of one of our parents. We have to accept fact for fact. You know what I'm saying? I can't deny the fact that the white man is the devil just because my father is white. I can't deny that because the proof is in the pudding. Though my father may not have been racist towards me, or I may not have felt a certain type of way or heard my father say certain things, it doesn't mean that my father doesn't have certain thoughts. It doesn't mean that my father isn't prone to do wickedness. It doesn't mean that my father isn't like that. My father could be okay, but that's not up to me. That's between him and Allah. But just accepting the fact that he's white, accepting the history of white people and the history between white and black people, and accepting it for what it is.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for sharing. And I appreciate the fact that you're transparent about that. And share your story around that, because I noticed that some mixed children, whether they be men or women, that a lot of them are uncomfortable with even admitting that or even wanting to talk about that. Like they're like shy about that part of their identity. And I appreciate that you talk about it and connect it to the teachings and speak on it from an aspect too of Master Fard Muhammad, and just it being purpose behind it. So that's why I wanted to ask you, for anyone watching and who can relate, to hear it specifically from you. Okay, so the next question we have for you is, it's the last on this topic of what I started to ask you. So particularly just in a personal matter, what have you learned about yourself and Allah God pertaining to your experiences of being black and white?
What have I learned about myself? I don't know. That's like, I don't know. Can you expound on the question?
Yeah, I kind of think you were getting into it. Like from outside people looking in, or people thinking that they know it all, and they're trying to tell you like, it's different from Master Fard Muhammad because Master Fard Muhammad has a black dad, and you're like, okay, that's not true. But I think people can have their own perspectives of it, and they can have a completely different perspective of it because they have no personal connection or experiences for themselves. But you've actually had to go through it. So externally, I can say what I think it means, and it wouldn't be nothing like it's different. But I can't speak to it, honestly. I can't speak from a place of experience. I can't speak from a place of true knowledge, because I just don't know what that's like. All I can speak of is from like, oh, I got like some couples in my family who have interracial relationships, interracial marriages, but you get what I'm saying? But you have a personal relationship with it, and because you are in these teachings, you know Master Fard Muhammad's story as much as you can know, as much as we can know. But so that's what I mean. Does that help? And it's okay if it's not making sense, or if you don't have an answer right now.
That does make sense. I mean, really, I I guess it's kind of shown me like, kind of like, I guess the type of person that I am. that even though there is something, there's a part of me that um, could, in one sense, be shunned um, by Black people. I accept the fact that it's true. Um, but on the flip side, I also believe, and this is just my opinion, I could be wrong. I believe that Black isn't necessarily your physical being.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that it's more so like your essence. Black is an essence. Black is a thought first. If Black is the essence from which all colors derive, then that means it's not a color, it's an essence. And the essence of your being is your thought. The essence of your being is your spirit. And so Black is more than just the color of my skin. I'm Black on the inside. The way that I perceive the world is through a Black perspective. Um, and I think that it was meant to be like this, the way that I was raised, because I wasn't raised around my white family. Um, I was only raised around my Black family. And I can say, even as a child, I've always leaned more towards Black issues. Like if I seen a Black person on a corner that was begging, I would feel more sorrow for them than, I'm gonna be honest, than a white person. And I never understood it as a child, like seeing things happen to Black people on TV, on the news, hearing about things that happen to Black people always disturbed me. But I never really felt that way about white issues. And so people can have their perceptions and their ideas and their thoughts on who and what they think I am, but I know who I am, and I know who I am in connection to Allah. And the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, if you have just 1% of Black blood in you, then let's build, let's work. And another part is, even though my father is white, he is a white man, my father also has original aspects to him. So he's Indian, like Native American, he's white, but he's not Caucasian. Like there's a difference between Caucasian and Caucasian is blonde hair, blue eyes, green eyes, red hair, burn in the sun. You know, my dad darker than me, black hair, brown eyes, tans in the sun. So I kind of feel like it's a little different. And maybe that is justification in a way. I don't know. I just feel like it's just a little different. My dad has a little bit of swag to him, you know what I'm saying? He kind of got a lean when he walk. He don't walk all stiff and upright, you know. He kind of, you know, kind of throw his arm in the front of him when he walking. But regardless of the fact, I'm becoming more comfortable with who I am because this is how Allah created me. And if Allah is the best of creators, then how can I be upset on how He created me? He created me to be who I am, and so I have to accept that.
Thank you, Sister Mecca. I I prepare more questions than I usually do for according to line. So first off, thank you, Sister Faith, and thank you, Sister Mecca, for taking my questions. I have two more, and we're gonna go to a different segment. Um, and this next question is because you also talk about how your children teach you a lot, and how your children, these are not your words, but what I get from what you share is that children are a mirror for us. And what I do see you say is that you learn a lot about God and your personal relationship to God through your children. So my question for you, because I would love for the people who have not heard this side of you before, what do your children teach you in relationship to Allah God?
Oh man,
Hmm.
they teach me. Um, okay, I'll give you an example. Recent. I'm nursing, and my youngest is almost 5 months old now. But I've been having problems with my breast milk and the amount that I'm producing. And so sometimes it takes a while for my milk to come out. Sometimes it'll take about 5 to 7 minutes for me to have a letdown, and it's frustrating to my child. And the other night, I was like, babe, it's coming. You just have to be patient. Just because it's not there doesn't mean that it's not there. My body is working in order to be able to give you what you want, but you have to be patient. And it kind of made me think about where I am now and how I've become impatient with the process. And just as, he's sucking on my breast for sustenance, I suck on the breast of the universe for my sustenance, or Allah for my sustenance. And even though it may seem like it's not coming fast enough for him, what I want is not coming fast enough for me, it doesn't mean that the universe is not working in my favor towards what I want, that things aren't being put in place for me. It doesn't mean that my body is not producing the milk for him. I just have to be patient. He just has to be patient in order to receive what he wants. And so that's one example. Another example is really um, a really good example would be, there was one time where I was giving my son, my oldest, some yogurt, and he was done with the yogurt, and he started playing with the container. And so I was thinking in my mind, okay, well, he's done, so I'm going to get him another one. But he didn't want to let go of the container that had nothing in it, right? And so when I took the container from him, he started crying and screaming and acting out because he wanted the container that, again, had nothing in it, not knowing that I was going to give him more than what he had. So if he would have just let me do that, he would have received it much quicker. But it made me think of how I sometimes entertain things that have no benefit to me. It's trash. As the minister said, trash is the residue of something that was once useful, whether it's people, whether it's things, whether it's a mindset, whatever the case may be. I'm entertaining something that's not useful to me anymore. It might have been useful a year ago in my development, but it's not useful now. And when Allah takes that away from me, I get out of my comfort zone and I begin to act out. But not knowing that even though he's taking it away from me, and even though it doesn't hold any benefit to me at that point, he's preparing to give me something much better if I would just act accordingly and not trip out. Because once you begin to trip out, it makes you not want to, once the child begins to trip out, it makes you not want to give the child anything. But if you would just be patient and allow Allah to do what he gonna do, he's going to give you more than what you even asked for. So that's just some of the things that I've learned from my children.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for sharing. Anything that you want to ask Sister Faith before we move to the next segment?
I don't have anything that I want to ask, but I do want to add, Sister Mecca, I think that you are a very strong woman to, one, accept the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad and not allow your feelings to consume you to the point where you don't accept truth. I personally don't know how that feels, and I will never know how it feels. So I just wanted to say that I think that you're really strong to be able to do that, and I'm glad you're my sister, girl. That's it.
Yeah, and thank you. Just thank you for your transparency, and I appreciate that you talk about these things again on social media, because these things that we need to talk about, but especially children being a mirror to our own relationships that we have with Allah. So thank you. So for our next segment is maintaining peace. And so with you being a mother, well, an artist, a wife, a mother, and like, how do you just like balance having time for yourself?
um, it's definitely a struggle. Sometimes having time for myself means that I don't get enough sleep. Um, and it's kind of like a cycle, but that's just where I am right now in my life, because I have a baby that wakes up and wants to feed every couple of hours. So I don't necessarily have a lot of time to myself, but of that time that I make for myself, I just do my music or just spend a little bit of time of doing leisurely things, um, reading my Quran, or sometimes getting on social media or whatever. Trying to get away from social media though, as much as I was on it before. But it's hard because that's part of my business, so I have to kind of be on social media in order for me to maintain my business, even though I really need to get away from it. But maintaining peace sometimes can definitely be difficult. But that's when I have really had to look to Allah and just ask him to bring peace to my mind, even though there may not necessarily be peace in my environment because I got children running around. Well, my youngest running around. It's like he's three children though, because he's always screaming and running and stuff. But it's really just trying to remember Allah that brings me peace.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for sharing. Um, I was kind of deciphering in my head, but I keep thinking about it, so I'm gonna ask you. And thank you for sharing about maintaining peace. So I'm going to go back to courting a lot because you honestly have a really peaceful voice, and there was this statement that I came across in this book titled The Law of Recognition by Mike Murdoch. And this has nothing to do with maintaining peace, but I thought it tied into courting a lot. But I was like, okay, I'm not going to ask her because I keep asking her too many questions. But I want to ask you, he said, the author Mike Murdoch actually didn't say this. He lifted a statement from somebody who he really cared about and who he learned from, which is Pastor Sherman Owens. And he said, listen to happy voices for encouragement, listen to unhappy voices for ideas. And I'm asking you this because with you being an artistic person, and it seems to be that you are also a spiritual sound person, like you um seem to really have a connection with Allah, and that you um just really look deeper into learning about yourself. So I'm gonna say the statement again, and I would like if you could share what significance do you see in this statement. So listen to happy voices for encouragement, listen to unhappy voices for ideas.
So what comes to mind for me, especially being an artist, when it comes to content, when it comes to creating, a lot of time you have to go from a place of despair, and that's usually where some of your best stuff comes from. It's from no, no, it's from it's from you see what I mean? You see? This is all day. Um, it comes from a place of despair. So when you study other people, because a wise person will learn from other people's lessons, but also you'll study other people in order to create something for yourself. Instead of you going through the trial, you can see other people go through the trial, and if you can empathize, then you can actually turn that almost into like an experience of yours, because that's just how powerful the mind is that your mind can cause you to believe that certain things that haven't even happened to you are real. So by listening to other people's stories, like Young God, for example, Young God came about from me listening to or hearing about the story of um, Junior, the young brother who was murdered in, I can't remember where he was murdered from, where he was at, but he was like it was a gang initiation or something. He was murdered, and there was people who was walking by that wouldn't even help him. You know what I'm saying? Cars. This is on a main street. He goes into a store bleeding out, and the person behind the register don't even want to help him. He tell him to get out, so he run to the nearest bus stop, and he sit there, and that's where he dies. And what hit me is that his mother didn't have a chance to say goodbye. You know what I'm saying? The last time she seen him, he was already gone, and nobody had any type of compassion to stop or you know nothing. And so that's where Young God came to me, is from somebody else's experience, but it hurt me so bad that I was able to use that as energy to create a song. So, and then the happy voices for did you say inspiration?
Listen to happy voices for encouragement.
For encouragement. I mean, you want to listen to happy, I mean, happy voice, it kind of just signals like this person is happy, so I should listen to what they say because obviously they're happy. So if I listen to what they say, then I'll be happy. So it kind of worked like that. Um, so yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. So, Sister Faye is going to get us into our last two segments.
Alrighty, so this segment is Come On Sis. Now, the first question that I have is it's in regards to your music. And so the question is, what do you want your music to do for women in general?
Y'all, I'm running around with my children everywhere.
Yes, ma'am, I understand. Trust me, I understand. Zaid done came in the podcast plenty of times. So no worries, sis.
Okay, what was the question?
Yes, ma'am. What do you want your music to do for women in general?
Well, if 75% of the work is with the woman, come on, baby, then I definitely want to be an inspiration to women in really all aspects. So I really need to master my 7 units so that I can be an example to women. So that's first and foremost is mastering my 7 units. 'Cause that's really just what I want is to be an inspiration, to be an example. You know what I'm saying? We, especially in the music industry, we don't have a lot of that. We don't have examples of women,
Yeah.
unless it's, you know, unholy behavior.
Mm-hmm. So, okay. So, would you say that you have had some challenges, or you had to overcome any challenges being a, a righteous female artist, being a Muslim female artist?
Um,
Have you faced anything like, yeah, any battles or anything like that?
I have, especially in the beginning. Hold on 1 second.
Yes, ma'am.
Um, especially like in the beginning. um,
Mataka. I wish I could see him right now. He is funny. Oh my gosh.
um, like I've been told before, like you're too conscious, you're never gonna make it. Don't nobody want to hear that. I was told before the day after I had dropped the Young God, the day after I dropped Young God, the music video.
I'm sorry. He is funny. He like, Baba, you not about to have no free time right now. This is not one of them times.
Period. Mm. It was actually, oh my God, it was actually a diss track was dropped by this guy. Long story short, he's writing me and he's literally like threatening my life. And he was telling me that there was no way that I was going to make it. Because if you did, then you will become a hoe in the industry and you're married, you have children. So you're definitely not going to. And especially like from where I'm from, like there's not a big conscious community here. So when I would be doing shows and stuff, of course there were people who respected, my craft and what I did, but I most definitely didn't get the type of recognition like the other artists would because of course I'm not talking about what they're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So it's definitely been a struggle. Um, of course, covering up and just being all around different is definitely a struggle, but because I've been steadfast, I'm able to see that Allah is placing us in positions. So like I right now am qualifying myself for a position awaiting me if I would just be continue to be steadfast. Allah is positioning the artists in the NOI in particular um to be leaders. But like Dr. Wesley said, that the artists of today are the guys of today. Um we have a lot of influence. So it's a lot of work that come with that. But yes, I have experienced some stuff being a female artist in the Nation of Islam.
Do you ever get discouraged, like knowing that? And I used to write, but then I kind of sort of stopped, mainly because I felt like that wasn't the direction that I wanted to go in anymore, and mostly because of discouragement. I felt like, well, a lot of women who are popular, whatever you want to call it, or in mainstream media, they're talking about certain things. They out here halfway naked, and it was just like, you know what, I'm not going to compromise myself. So knowing that you are a Muslim woman, I believe that you are firm in your stance of where you are musically and your image. But has that ever gotten to a place where you were discouraged, or you've experienced any discouragement because of you being a conscious Muslim woman, you covering, like you said, and then knowing that in this world, for a woman to really get the recognition that she wants or desires, that she has to compromise herself and pretty much take her clothes off?
Honestly, no. My whole thing is basically, if nobody else listens to me, Allah see what I'm doing. And so the works of a worker is never wasted. Um, the works of a believer is never wasted. And so that's just my main thing, is that I want to be pleasing to Allah. And whether or not anybody listens to my music, I do this because I love it. And I do this because this is what Allah gave me. And I feel like He gave me this for a reason, and I have a voice. So I've actually never felt weird or any type of way because I had to cover or because I was conscious. Actually, it gives me more confidence because I know I'm different. So it kind of makes people remember me. I mean, my name is a little different, so, and it kind of has a Hecava Mecca. Oh, okay. Like somebody made a rap out of it before. So it kind of sticks too, but just because I'm different overall, it gives me more confidence.
So you use that pretty much to your advantage.
Pretty much. And basically like just being because I'm pretty reserved. And so like when I would go to shows, I'm walking around meeting people, hi, how you doing? People going on stage, and I'm the only one who's dancing for other people. Like, don't nobody else dance for nobody else who is an artist. And I'm like, y'all some haters. Like, I'm dancing for them, and I go on stage and I'm a completely different person. They like, I can't believe that was you. You're a completely different person on stage. And I kind of understand like what Beyonce was talking about, like how she just becomes a different person, like who she is off stage, but who she is on stage, it's not the same person. It's not demonic. It's really just like Allah working through you. That's how I see it. But yeah.
So would you say that you are, how there's this idea that women have to, not even women, but men and women, like they can't really acknowledge each other's greatness. It's like, oh, I'm the best and I'm this and you're not the best at this. So would you say that does that play a role in why you are the way that you are in any type of way? Like being able to still appreciate this person's talent, being able to acknowledge this sister's talent, and then be like, you know what, that doesn't take away from me being able to do that. And this is, because the rap industry is like, I'm the best and you not, and we gonna go against each other and we got a battle because I'm better than you.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. That's definitely not my mindset.
Mm-hmm.
I just think that, we are all expressions of Allah. And though some people may prefer other people more, and some people may prefer other people more. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't make the other person less than. You're just different. And you're gonna have your own sect of people who rock with you, and you're gonna have people who don't rock with you, regardless of who you are or how good you may think your music is. You could be a master musician, and you still gonna have somebody who just don't like what you do. So I'm just more so like, let's work together. You got a platform, I got a platform, you good, I'm good. My fans could become your fans can become my fans. So why are we beefing? But we could be working together and building an even bigger fan base and getting paid at the same time. It don't make sense to me.
Yes, ma'am. So would you say that you are trying to change the dynamics of hip hop from we can be kumbaya? Remy Ma said it's not a kumbaya type of thing, but do you think that you can change the dynamics in some sort of an instance by being that example and being able to for it to be like we all in this together? We just, we different, but we still artists and we can still respect each other and acknowledge each other's greatness.
Most definitely.
Praise be to Allah. Yes, ma'am. Sister Destiny, did you want to add anything?
No, I'm just listening.
Okay, yes, ma'am. Okay, so then that brings us into our last segment, which is self-care. And I'm really looking forward to your answers, beloved. So what does self-care look like for Hecava Mecca? What does that look like?
Self-care. My type of self-care may not be other people's type of self-care, but it's just being able to have some time to myself, being able to think to myself and like study my thoughts. Why do I think the way that I think? You know what I'm saying? Because your thoughts are at the core of your being. So if I'm thinking a certain type of way, then that's why I'm yielding a certain response. That's why I'm experiencing things a certain way. So when I begin to become short with my children, become irritated with my children, I have to stop and think, okay, what's wrong with the way that I'm thinking? What am I doing that's causing me to become short with them? What's causing me to become irritated with them? Because it's something that's wrong with me. Even though raising children can definitely be trying. If I'm able to be conscious of my own conscience, then I should be able to be more present mentally. Turn it off, baby. I can be more present with my children. And so really it's just self-care to me is just delving in. What? Okay. It's delving into how I think.
Yes, ma'am, and I would have to agree with that. And you actually answered this question to an extent earlier, but my last question is, how do you get time to yourself considering the many roles that you do have in your life? I know earlier you mentioned that sacrificing sleep or you not being able to get sleep is one way that you do it. Is there any other way that you get time to yourself?
Not really, unless unless my husband home from work and I'm like, hey, I'm gonna go get X, Y, and Z from the store. Then that's time where I get to spend to myself. But other than that, that's about it. Whenever they go down for a nap, I'm doing what I need to do.
Yes,
and if that means that I don't get no sleep, then that's just what it means.
Yes, ma'am. Praise be to Allah. Sister Destiny, did you have any other thing that you wanted to add or anything else?
No, just Sister Mecca, outside of the segments, just any or one of the segments, but do you have anything else that you want to talk about, or even if it has nothing to do with the segments, just something you want to share?
Um, he's just gonna put me on the spot like that.
Well, out of respect, we like to ask because there could have been things that you wanted to talk about in this space. So just wanted to make sure. But if not, it's fine. But if so,
well, one thing I did want to say was in courting Allah, from my experience, I've realized that courting Allah is a process into becoming married with Allah. And I feel like in courting Allah, Allah woos you. So it's like when you begin to become awakened and you begin to strengthen your connection with Allah, Allah begins to woo you. So you begin to have thoughts and those thoughts begin to come true. You begin to think certain things and what you want, it begins to happen. And it's like all these things begin to happen in your benefit. And so you're like, yeah, this is how it's always going to be, right? But then once you decide to, I'm in this forever, let's do this, and you get into that marriage type relationship with Allah, Allah try you. Allah try you with what you say. You know what I'm saying? Allah tries you with what you love. For like example, I have been praying for humility. And in praying for humility, I began to realize that my interaction on Facebook or Instagram was beginning to go down. My sales were beginning to plummet. And at first thought, I'm like, dang, what's going on? But then I had to remember I asked Allah to humble me. And so in humbling me, Allah is forcing me to see, like, what am I really doing this for? Am I doing it for the clout? Am I doing it for the recognition? Am I doing it for the money? Or am I doing it for Allah? Am I doing it for the resurrection of the people? What are my intentions behind what I want? And so I just wanted to add that in here.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I could tell there's some more brewing on that, but thank you for sharing that. And it's interesting that you brought up the woo perspective, but I think that could be saved for another time. But that's all, Sister Faith. I just want to ask Sister Mecca if there's anything else.
Okay, yes, ma'am. Well, I don't have anything else to add except I would like for you to be a part of our show again in the future. I think that we can definitely have more, we can converse more about pretty much all of the topics, and I'd like to see in the future how you have been able to establish or get time for yourself if you are able to do that. It'll probably be when they get a little bigger, but for right now, because you do have two small children, that's not going to happen for a while. But
you about to see.
I know. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So thank you so much, sis. I really appreciate it. I appreciate you being a part of the show. I thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule. Even though you were our sister on here, the duty of mom did not go away. You still have to be a mom. And I can totally relate to that. Like I said, Zaid, he just a minute ago was naked, and I'm like, oh, Allah, okay, don't get in the camera, son. But yes, ma'am. So I guess that will conclude our episode. This is our 16th episode. And if no one else has anything to add, then that will wrap up and conclude this episode of Black Tea.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for reaching out and allowing me the opportunity to be on your platform and to share some of my thoughts and to engage with you all.
Yes, ma'am. Praise be to Allah. I might not be able to get in touch with you in the near future. You're gonna be too big. I'm gonna be like, sis, when you got time for me, when you have time. Yes, ma'am. Sister Destiny, I'm sorry. Yes, ma'am.
No, I was just saying thank you, Sister Mecca. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. Alrighty. Well, assalamu alaikum. Thank you.
Mom.